Hello and welcome to Stupid Ancient History with Midgley
and Taylor and our expert, non-expert and special guest James, Science Toolboy.
Hello.
As always, we're wearing togas, our kylixes are full, and today we're going to look at the Battle of Plataea. Previously on Stupid Ancient History, we looked at the increasingly disastrous campaign of Xerxes, the one he launched against Greece in 480 BC.
But he did finally get to burn Athens! Yay!
Yeah, but despite burning Athens, the Persians suffered a monumental defeat to a combined Greek force at the Battle of Salamis.
Although halfway through, Xerxes thought he was winning.
Because he had no clue what was happening.
True. And the impact of this battle was so decisive that Xerxes, fearing he'd be trapped in Greece, legged it back to Persia.
Not exactly the triumphant return home you would have hoped for.
Not really.
Oh, you're back, are you? You're back, yeah? Not done anything, have you?
Weren't there some other people with you?
He's got a tosser to put up with, hasn't he, when he gets home?
Oh, she's going to give him such an ear bashing.
Be getting more than that off me.
So Xerxes has legged it.
Yep.
Is it over?
Not quite. So, so as Xerxes flees back to Persia, Mardonius remains in Greece with 300,000 troops.
Why?
Well,
Really? Why?
Well, there are a few different possibilities. So Herodotus tells the story that Mardonius, thinking Xerxes will blame him for the failure of the expedition.
Well, it was his plan after all. So to avoid the wrath of Xerxes, Mardonius stays behind to try and make amends or try and salvage something. And also get a good distance between him and Xerxes, who's not in the best of moods.
It also, I suppose, would make him look good, won't it, that he's the one that's still staying.
Yeah.
So if Xerxes, if you think about it long term, if there is some kind of kickback against Xerxes back in Persia, whether it comes from a tosser or it just comes from other nobles or the people, they can be like, well, Mardonius is still there fighting, why aren't you? So it kind of makes him look good. Yeah. Another reason could be that Mardonius and his troops were kept in Greece to preoccupy the Greeks and kind of protect Xerxes' retreat so that Xerxes is safe because the Greeks can't just leave and chase him because he's too busy still fighting
he's left
Mardonius.
300,000 people and is building a fake bridge just to cover his escape.
Yep.
Cool.
Again, it may even have been that Mardonius was there to keep hold of the new territories they'd taken, like Thebes and Thessaly, make sure they don't slip back into Greek.
And the cinders of Athens.
And the cinders of Athens.
Yeah, or even more, kind of given the size of the force, 300,000, it's not a little army, that he was to continue the campaign, and maybe while Xerxes gathered reinforcements from Persia with the hope of going back to continue fighting.
Third of what he started with, though.
Well,
yeah. It's like a placeholder, really. Just stay there until go and get
it's
some
like
more
a
fellas.
pin, isn't it? He's just keeping it.
Yeah.
I mean,
keeping
there's
it
also
there.
the problem with that is where's Xerxes going to get these people from?
Did he send every possible person from Persia the first time?
Apparently, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Apart from that one guy who stayed behind.
I mean, to be fair, he's the only sensible one.
Yeah.
Bring him, he'd probably have it done in a fortnight. So what did Mardonius do then? Mardonius. So,
following the Battle of Salamis, Mardonius and his troops spend the winter in Thessaly, in kind of northern Greece, because they'd really rather not fight through the winter. And Thessaly
What are Greek winters like?
Cold.
How cold?
Well, it depends whether you're up a mountain or not.
Right,
they vary. But I mean, Thessaly's ideal for them. It's meadized, it's nice and flat, they've got good grazing ground for the horses. Yeah, they're biding the time. So he remains there until late summer of 479, preparing himself.
And it also gives the Greeks time to sort themselves out a little bit too, so it's good for them.
Even with all the arguing they do.
There's no festivals they have to stop and do or anything like that?
No festivals in this one, strangely.
Oh really? Oh wow.
Yeah. So as August approaches, Mardonius marches his army southwards again towards Athens.
And burns it to the ground. Again!
How much rebuilding have they done in that time?
He built the scaffolding.
Okay.
So obviously the Greeks can't have this band of Persian troops roaming around the country burning cities or burning scaffolding. They just burn anything, they're not bothered. So a combined force marches to Plataea where the Persians are camped.
So Mardonius has this, relatively small army of 300,000.
Teeny one.
If the Greeks march, how many do they have?
So the combined force is a little short of 40,000 men from all over the free Greek world.
So is this what's the Hellenic League? This is from all over the place.
This is all of the Hellenic League. Yeah.
That's still a lot less. Is this another propaganda?
Yeah,
Herodotus massaging the Greek story.
Well, not really. It's less likely because we're not just relying on Herodotus for this. So after the Persian Wars, the Free Greeks constructed, they erected a monument at Delphi. It's called the Serpent Column. And this is to commemorate Greek unity in this battle. And on the side of it, carved into it, on it is listed the various numbers of troops sent by various states. Given the sacred nature of Delphi as well, it's unlikely they'd exaggerate things.
Okay.
So they've built this monument. It's got this list of troops that's on the screen. So we can say it's pretty reliable as far as Greek numbers go.
All right.
So the combined force marches to Plataea under the command of a Spartan regent called Pausanias.
Because Leonidas is still dead, so he can't do it.
Well, you several times you called him one of the Spartan kings. Is there another Spartan king who can take over?
There are 2 Spartan kings at any one time.
Okay.
But it seems at this point the other Spartan king is preoccupied. We just don't know what he's
having
doing.
a party.
Yeah. And Leonidas' son is too young to take over. So this is why they go to Pausanias, who's like an uncle. But he's the regent, he's not the proper king.
So what's their big plan to defeat the Persians? Because they've got a much smaller army.
Well, luckily, Pausanias has some infallible advisors as well.
What?
The gods.
Oh, right, of course. We're being sensible again.
Yeah.
And, if that's not enough, he also has some goats. Because if there's a problem, send a goat.
It's been a while since we've had some absolute nonsense. I missed this.
Well, it's not that he does ask the goats, but not, hi Brian the goat, what do you think we should do?
Don't bring Brian into this, he's a good
Hey, Goaty McGoatface. What are we gonna do?
So the point with the goats, at various points during the planning of the battle, and actually even midway through the battle he does this, Pausanias makes sacrifices of the goats, and he gets a priest to interpret the entrails.
Alright.
So obviously, middle of a battle, hang on lads, bring me the goat. So when they reach Plataea, they find the Persians encamped across the Esopus River, and Pausanias consults his advisors again. And it says,
This Tissamenus, then brought by the Spartans, was acting as diviner for the Greek forces at Plataea. The omens turned out to be favourable to the Greeks, provided that they fought a defensive action, but unfavourable should they cross the Esopus and attack.
actually relatively straightforward, so it's come from the inside of a goat.
Well, yeah. So what do the gods think they should do via goat entrails?
Well, effectively, just wait it out. The Greeks know the Persians could not weaken the force and head off around Greece with this army waiting for them. So they know they're stuck there. You know, they're not going to just ignore them. So they've got them where they want them. They also know that crossing the river in all that heavy armour would make them really easy targets and probably sink.
Yeah.
And on the other side of the river, Mardonius is having similar thoughts. So he doesn't really want to head out over the river and engage the Greeks, although this would be significantly easier for him, given he's got his cavalry. He does, however, have to think about his other troops. So his army is joined by approximately 50,000 allied Greek troops, including Thebans.
Okay.
So his army's growing, but they're just sat there
Waiting.
Yeah, so a tedious waiting game begins.
Do we know how one interprets goat entrails?
Not off the top of my head,
Right,
I'm sure
okay.
that's something we can find out. Do we know where we can get some goats?
Not ones that still have their entrails in.
No.
You can go to a butcher and ask.
My mate's got some.
Brilliant.
No.
You started by calling this a battle. It's not really shaping up to be much of one.
Hold your horses, right?
And your goats.
Yeah, and your goats. Just keep all your livestock under control, basically.
Or you'll gut them and tell the future.
So feeling the kind of growing disquiet and frustration in his camp, similar to the kind that you're showing at the moment, Mardonius makes the first move.
So his forces cross the Esopus and then they begin engaging the Greeks, who, whilst they're on a relatively open battleground, which is unusual for them, they're still on the high ground, so they've got a bit of an advantage. The Persians concentrate their attack on the Spartans because they see them as the main threat, whilst the Thebans focus on the Athenian contingent.
So is it kind of like Athenians, sea threat, Spartans, land threat sort of thing?
Yeah, traditionally. But the Athenians have sent a few thousand troops to Plataea, but the Thebans and Athenians have never got on.
Right.
So they see it's a perfect opportunity to go, oh, there's some Athenians, we'll go and fight them. We'll deal with the Spartans. So we're told that the fighting is fierce, which led Pausanias midway through the battle to consult his generals again. So Herodotus says,
once more, as they were about to engage with Mardonius and his men, they performed the ritual of sacrifice. The omens were not favourable, and meanwhile many of their men were killed and many more wounded, for the Persians had made a barricade of their wicker shields, and from the protection of it were shooting arrows in such numbers that the Spartan troops were in serious distress. This added to the unfavourable results of the sacrifice.
I mean, it wasn't looking favourable for the goat, definitely.
Well, no, that's a very polite way of they were in distress. If someone shot one arrow at me, I'd be in distress, let alone hundreds of them.
Yeah, so it's not going great at this point, and the fighting is fierce, but it seems that things start to go more in the Greeks' favour.
So it says the Persians would lay hold of the Spartan spears and break them. In courage and strength they were as good as their adversaries, but they were deficient in armour, untrained and greatly inferior in skill.
So it's that same old problem of the Persians attacking the Spartans. They're doing their best, but
they're just better.
Yeah, and there's only so much you can do with some nice silk pyjamas and a wicker shield.
And a lovely hat.
And a lovely hat. So, throughout all this fighting, despite the chaos and regular checking in with the gods just to make sure, the Greeks have actually done something quite useful.
So the gods turned out to actually be good advisors then?
Apparently so.
So by performing a sort of staged retreat, the Greeks have not only brought the majority of the Persian forces across the river and into open land, which is better for them, but they've also split the Persian force, which not only weakens the numbers they have to attack any one part of Greece, and of the Greek force, but also makes it harder for the Persians to coordinate and adapt their plans.
I thought the Greeks didn't like fighting on open flat.
They don't, but they're basically goading the Persians to fight in here.
Right,
so if they can't fight in a valley, what they've done effectively, they split the Persians in two, hoping that with the lack of coordination, they're easier to pick off, even though there's still loads of them. So Mardonius himself is leading the charge against the Spartans, described beautifully on his giant white horse, fighting hard until he's killed by a Spartan called Amnestus. Crushes his head with a rock.
Dun, dun, dun.
That was the end of him then?
Yep.
So, leaderless and divided, unsurprisingly, the Persians are defeated.
No one else is there to step up. They all just go, oh, he's dead.
After you've just seen your commander with their head splattered like a peanut underneath a massive rock, then you probably would just be like, nah, I'm not taking command of this. I'm going home.
I mean, there's more insulting sources which suggests Mardonius was killed by a slave just chucking a rock at him. After a furious battle going on, nope, some slave with a rock. Here, catch that, whack.
Right, okay. So they're not...
Maybe it was someone who was in a previous life a goat herder, and they were getting quite fed up about the amount of goats that were being killed.
Maybe. Either way, after all of this time, Mardonius is dead.
Aww. This isn't the last slide, so we're not done, are we?
No, afraid not. There's more. So, Plataea only dealt with the threat on land.
Okay.
Persian forces in Greece, there was still the tiny issue of the Persian Navy that needed sorting out.
Is Artemisia still knocking about?
Well, she's gone home. She's
she gone
yeah,
with
she's
Xerxes?
having none of this. Well, no, she left him. She went.
Oh, really?
No, had enough of this. You clearly don't know what you're playing at. See you later.
Oh.
Going home.
Yeah, and I like this woman even more.
She's having none of it now. So handily, on the exact same day as the Battle of Plataea.
This is sounding very convenient to me.
Yeah. So it might be more of a feature of narrative convenience than accuracy.
Yeah.
But
About the same time.
yeah,
Okay.
around that time. So the Greeks had dispatched a naval force to Mycale, where the Persians were keeping their navy.
Okay.
And the Greeks managed to defeat the Persian Navy on land.
What? I just burn it all. Was it docked or?
Well, yeah, most of the Persian fleet had been beached at the time for repairs, so the Persians had simply built little wooden walls around them on the beaches to protect them.
Okay.
And we all know how wooden walls have worked out in the past.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
according to the oracles, really well.
Yeah.
So the Greeks simply got off their boats and piled onto the beach.
And then did them all in.
Lovely.
So, yeah, a relatively unspectacular battle.
Yeah, sounds a bit anticlimactic, really.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
And thus ended any significant threat to the Greeks from that point on.
It's been a shocker of a war for the Persians,
Yeah,
hasn't it?
So if we look then at Plataea, I mean, one couple of things we need to address. Could Mardonius have actually had any success staying behind in Greece?
Well, like you said, he could have won a helmet.
He could have won a helmet, that would have been successful for him, but a force of 300,000 is not insignificant. But arguably you could also say that by the time the Greeks had sorted their act out and rallied an actual army this time, not just 300 Spartans and a few extras, he was really up against it. He was in enemy territory, you know, a relatively large force, but that didn't seem to necessarily help. But he didn't have necessarily the determination that the Greeks had.
I was going to say the other thing is probably the morale, isn't it, from
Yeah.
the point of the Persian troops.
That
They've
must be in
seen-
the toilet.
Yeah, they've seen like large numbers of their men killed. The rest of them that are still alive are probably absolutely knackered. Then they've seen their king just leave and basically not bother.
After the hot gates, did he not try the burying most of them trick again?
No, he was too busy running. Yeah, I mean, the morale would be like, there would be that question, why are we still here?
Yeah,
What can we hope to achieve?
a bit like when your leader does one thing but tells you to do something else. History repeating good
I
stuff.
don't know what you mean. They were all there for an eye test, that's what it was. But yeah, I mean, also you've got this issue that the Greeks are now finally unified, they're finally mobilised. To them, they're in the home straight. Xerxes has run off. This is just tidying up loose ends to them. They're always going to have the upper hand in this. And the other question is, would the outcome have been different if Xerxes was still there? Would it have made the Persian troops fight any better? Thoughts, James?
No.
Well, if Xerxes was there, would the plan work?
Well, probably not, because he would have ruined
No.
it in some way. But he wouldn't have been anywhere near it. Would have been on a mountain,
On a
having
chair.
no clue what's going on.
So you can almost look at it as like, even if the Persians did win the Battle of Plataea, what were they going to do next? Burn
Yeah.
Athens for a third time?
But isn't that theirs now?
Yeah.
Burning one of their own captured cities.
So you can almost look at it as like a bit of a futile battle,
Yeah.
which is quite sad.
If their plan is basically to just kind of show that they're the best and they're trying to keep the rest of Greece in line.
Well, they've not really done a great
They've
job.
not
of
done
it
a great
so
job
far.
of it, have they? So there's not really much point carrying on. So I don't know if it would have made much of a difference Xerxes being there, because the damage has already been done, hasn't it?
Definitely. So there you have it, a quick look at the Battle of Plataea in 479 BC. We hope this has been useful. Thank you for listening. Leave us a comment below, and until next time, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.